Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to this week's edition of Sisters Corner. I'm here with Brother Amir Arshad and we're talking about his various and many volunteer roles and particularly his work with the Muslim Heritage Centre, which is a massive organisation physically in terms of the amount of space and in terms of the activities that they run from there for the Muslim community and wider in Manchester and beyond and around the country as well. So just before the break we were talking to Brother Amir about the MacFest, which is the Muslim Arts and Cultural Festival, which is to take place shortly. So we'll just go back there. And I'm sorry, we'll just get warming up, won't we? Thank you again for making time to come and talk to us about all these exciting and interesting activities.
So you're asking me about what kind of programs we have
so
on
what
that day.
Exactly MacFest is. And
I've had to pull my phone out and look at the brochure because it's such an extensive brochure.
And is that available on your website? On the Heritage website?
Yeah, you can. You can go onto the actual MacFest website.
Okay.
So all the details are on the British Muslim Heritage website, and then we've got the MacFest pages on there because the bulk of the festival will be at this centre.
Okay. Super.
So, for example,
so we've got 10 days of activities, and there's an artist who's leading this.
Yes.
And just before the break, you were saying, in a way, it was post the Manchester Arena terrorist attack, where so many people were injured and hurt and lost their lives. And actually, again, Muslim communities came under fire for not doing enough. And Manchester really rose to the occasion, didn't they? They really showed a unified face and dignified, and people came together really well. I know there were a few people from Manchester, from Bradford actually, who got caught up in that, unfortunately, as well. Okay. So that was really important, and it was, like you said earlier, that the Heritage Centre brought together the communities to do a commemorative event. And actually it's fitting a year later that you've got an event that will help further relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So of this huge brochure that you've got, 50
our tagline is spread honey, not hate. So if you go hashtag spread honey, not hate, and it goes with the Manchester bee and everything. So even on our leaflets, we've got the shape of the Manchester bee on there as well. So it's hashtag spread honey, not hate, and that will take you to that. So I'll just go through some of the highlights that we have. So we have a celebration of famous historical writers from Bangladesh, Egypt, India, Iran, Pakistan, Sudan and Turkey. Their work will be read by Yasmin Ali Brown, who is a well-known politician. We've got Baroness Manzila Uddin, and what we've tried to do in this is, because I'm working very closely with the director, who is a famous novelist in her own right, and she said what she wants to do is not only bring the wider community, she wants to bring our communities together as well, because we all have our own niches, where the Pakistanis will be with the Pakistanis, the Gujaratis with the Gujaratis, and so forth. So she's aiming to bring our community together as well.
I think that's really powerful actually, and it's so important because unfortunately there is also quite a lot of intra-group racism amongst the Muslim community, and I know people don't like to talk about it and pretend it's all hunky-dory, but it isn't, because if you look, I mean, my own personal experience, so I'm from a Bangladeshi community, I've experienced, and I know members of my family have racism from the Pakistani community that way, and then if you look at the moment, there's the sort of British black Muslim community who are feeling quite alienated and quite excluded from sort of Muslim spaces. So there's a lot of discussion and debate and soul searching we need to do, because we can be better at being
and this
inclusive.
is this festival is to bring our people together as well as the wider, because the places that we're holding this festival is, I'll go through some of them. We've got the Whitworth Gallery, we've got Manchester Museum, we've got the universities, we've got the schools. So we are actually going mainstream. It's a mainstream festival. We're using the main. So this is one of the key targets, that we want to invite everybody. Fantastic. And then we've got tables. We're going to have tables there. We've got the Bosnian table, the Turkish table, Kurdish table, Bangladesh table. We've just got everybody. We're incorporating everybody into this festival.
Please tell me you're not going to have a football match, Bangladesh versus Pakistan.
We're not going to have that. We might have a cricket match, but not a football match.
And then I'm just telling you, based on my 20 plus years experience of doing inclusion type work, do not have a Bangladesh and Pakistan one. have a Wales and Scotland one or something random like that, or a Pennines and, you know.
Yorkshire, Lancashire, should we just do that?
Yeah, exactly. No, but it actually, what it does is, so if you do stuff like that, and what it does is it reinforces difference. So it goes, you're Pakistani and Bangladeshi, and it also reminds of old wounds. You did that to us, and this happened. And actually, it makes it harder to pass fault, you know. So all it does, whereas actually, and you do it a lot with young people stuff. If you just throw it all up in the air and go, you're the white roses, and you're the red roses, and you're this and that, that other stuff becomes less important, because actually, yes, our ethnic heritage will always be important to us, but we are British by nationality, a lot of us by birth, but we are also Islam by choice and by blessing, actually. And therefore, if that's our common thread, then we don't want to reinforce the bit that keeps us different, which is the cultural. I mean, it's important to us. Our heritage will always be important to us, and the cultural norms that come with that. But actually reinforcing it, because it's a very personal bugbear, you can tell, can't you? Where we go Bangladesh versus, because that's when it's like that. The test, isn't it? Who do you support? We need to get away from that stuff.
Absolutely right. Absolutely, I agree.
We support humankind, basically. That's as far as I'm concerned. This is from a non-sporty person,
and this is how we should be thinking. And I think generally, you know, people are fed up of all this division. There's so much division, and we're under attack now from different sectors. So we need to, this is the time where we need to come together.
And there's lots of questions in the air, isn't there? Definitely. And we're all asking, and our children are asking, and we're all thinking, and we need to be brave and start having those conversations. And what does that look like and feel like? So I think, you know, a festival like this that can open up some of those debates and discussions would be, you know, I'm imagining that's what they'll do, because that's kind of what festivals do.
And we've got so many things going on as well. So it's something for everybody. We've got a Rumi, the Alchemy of Love performance. There's keynote speeches by politicians, the Lord Lieutenant of Manchester as well. So everybody's involved in this. And we've got some very high profile dignitaries as well.
But it is for the ordinary people of Manchester and beyond as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's for everybody. And that's what it's about. And that's why we've chosen this centre to host it, because we can accommodate thousands of people.
Excellent.
So inshallah, we want everybody to come. Bradford, London,
Manchester. So in your massive building, have you got any residential facilities? Because actually it's quite interesting. People might want to come and stay over for a couple of days.
There are plans. At the moment they're doing some renovation work. So inshallah, hopefully in the near future. Just keep a lookout. Come and visit the centre.
Inshallah. No, definitely. So that sounds really fascinating. There's a website to go with that, MacFest.
There is. It's www.macfest.org.uk.
Okay, so if people want to find out more, they need to just go and look there. And you do want as many people to attend and make it a success as possible.
What you can do is you can register on Eventbrite. There's also a Launch Good page as well. So if you go into Launch Good MacFest, you'll find us there as well. And there's a whole itinerary on Eventbrite. We've got the brochure out as well, which is, there's an email version of that as well. So PDF version. So people can select whichever. They don't have to go to the whole 10 days of activities, obviously. They can select. I don't think they're going to be able to, so we might have like 2 same events, so you can choose where you want to go. And when you can make it. And there's something for everybody, and that's the beauty of it. It's for everybody. Well, you've definitely piqued my interest, so I can't wait to go and have a look. So if it's okay with you, I mean, please do, guest viewers, go and have a look on the website and do go and support it if you can. Definitely worth a trip across the Pennines. Probably will rain, because it always does in Manchester. But sorry. It's all indoors. It's all indoors, so we're good. And no, but it is nice as well, isn't it? You know, I've got people over there. So I just wanted to pick up on, you know, in your introduction, so we've talked a lot about your volunteering with the Heritage Centre, but you also mentioned at the beginning that you also volunteer with the burial service. Would you tell us a little bit more about that? Okay. What does that involve? Are you a volunteer gravedigger by any chance? Yes, and there's a lot more to it as well. I know I'm being facetious, but what we do is, this actually started off as it was there to plug a gap in the services, you know, in the funeral services, because what we found was that, you know, not everybody was able to access the help. It's like if you know the mosque, or You know, if you don't have any connections, then what does that person do? So people were struggling. So this came to actually, you know, stop that gap. But what it ended to doing, we found not just gaps, we found potholes. So we actually came in and started doing the funerals from beginning to end.
Right.
And
so
this is like, sometimes it's a 24-hour process, because when it happens, what we found is that generally, you know, the Muslim community, when it comes to funerals, then don't know what to do until it actually happens to them, when it actually hits home. And this is something that is certain. Death is certain. Yeah. So it's something that we really need to like increase our knowledge on, that what to do, how to do it, who to contact. So we came in,
and that it is quite expensive.
It's very expensive as well. Now what we offer is called the Manchester Muslim Burial Trust. We offer our services free of charge. You pay for, you know, the things that you have to pay for, but your transport, we have an ambulance, private ambulance, we have a dedicated team of volunteers, and we will help you every step of the way. So it's not just you know, like usually when we go to funerals, we just go to the mosque and we go to the graveyard, but there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes. So we come in behind the scenes, and up to date, we've done 135 plus funerals, and we're a volunteer organisation. So this is something, it's eye-opening and it's sad at the same time as well, that we as a community, we need to step up our game. And we're a volunteer,
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, you're a volunteer-led organisation, clearly. It kind of surprises me as well, because, you know, what you're kind of describing is the kind of service that a funeral directors would kind of deliver, really, and someone would help you plan your funeral from beginning to end. And I know with the Muslim burial, there's an additional pressure of time, so the sooner you can bury, you know, the parcel, the better. I suppose I'm interested to know, earlier on you said you had lots of different volunteer roles. My question to you is, well, actually, when do you actually earn? Because you've got to pay a mortgage, or you've got to, you know, buy food.
I'm self-employed. I work in the clothing sector.
Right.
So my job, the job that I've chosen to do, it keeps me flexible to do my volunteer work. But at the same time, I've got...
Is there an over-reliance on volunteers? So, you know, that's, like you said, death is a fact, and it's going to happen. And in a place like Manchester, with it, you know, it's had a sizable Muslim community for a while. I'm surprised that's not more advanced. But maybe, I mean, I don't know. So
generally, what I found in our institutions, this is all across the country, not only in Manchester, is there is an over reliance on volunteers. We want volunteers to do everything. You know, I think it's probably we have a discount mentality. So one of my projects that I'm working on is, I want people to get paid, because volunteers do a lot of the work, and I've seen that because I'm one myself, and I really I went deep into it as well. So inshallah, that's one of my projects, that I'm looking to make social enterprises, because people need jobs. Generally, you'll get people doing the volunteer work who, you know, they've got a bit of free time, or they're looking for a job. So inshallah, that's one of my aims.
Well, it is quite important, especially if you're relying on someone to do several hours, you know, consistently, and it's quite specialist. And volunteering is good, so I would never say to you, you know, you should pay everyone, because kind of then cancels out the benefits in a way. But equally, if you are relying on people to deliver a core service, there's usually a way to make that, like you say, as a social enterprise, pay for itself, not necessarily make profit, but at least, you know, people are not out of pocket, because times are hard and people need to be able to afford to live.
And because I've worked, you know, in different parts of the volunteer sector, so I've kind of worked out there's a need in every place, basically, you know. In every sector, there's something that needs to be doing. So say, for example, if I was to employ, you know, people to help me with the volunteer service, that's, you know, as and when. But in the meantime, I'd give them something else to do, because there's a lot that needs doing. It's not just, you know, there's food banks, there's elderly care, you know, just to go and help somebody do their shopping. Do you know, and especially now, there's a lot of old people, they're living on their own, and they have to do things on their own. And yes, social services do get involved, but up to a certain extent. No.
Well, it's interesting because I worked with somebody whose mother was a follower of the was a Jehovah's Witness, and they have a really advanced community setup, and it is amazing actually. So when this colleague's mum, who was a Jehovah's Witness, was ill and had to go to hospital, she didn't rely on her family. You know, she didn't have a lot of family left. Her daughter was at work. What they had was this community setup where these people from the same, I think they call it Kingdom Hall, so from the same, you know, place of worship, would take it in turns to go and sit with her in hospital every night. So it wasn't the same two people, but they would take it in turns. So in a way, it didn't matter if she didn't have family, because they had that. They would go home and feed her cat or her dog. I can't remember what she had. When she came home, they would everyone would keep visiting because they needed to keep her spirits up, help her with the shopping and stuff like this. And I remember hearing about it, and I thought, well, I don't know that we have a Muslim equivalent of that.
We don't.
Which is such a shame, because, you know, I know partly the reason we don't have it is because we think the extended family take care of all of that. And alhamdulillah, for a lot of people they do. But there are equally lots of more and more, when you said food banks, it made me think about it. There are more and more vulnerable people in our Muslim society, if you like, who are needing to use food banks, who are homeless, who have got complex needs, or who are elderly and widowed and for whatever reason haven't got lots of family around them. What do we do to remedy that?
We don't, and this is one of the things that I've been working on. So I've been working on a few different projects, and this is one of them. But inshallah, it'll all tie together. And but like I said, it takes people. I'm only one person. I can only do so much. And you know, we need teams of people. You know, everyone's saying, you know, we need jobs, right? We have jobs. Sometimes you have to make your own job. This is one of my one of the things that I do. That if I want a job, I will go and get a job. Like, I don't do the CV route. I've never done the CV route. If I want something, I will go and get it.
Yeah, but to be fair, you're probably very entrepreneurial. You're probably quite charismatic. So you can go and create and seize opportunities where you see them. There's nothing wrong with going the CV route because
I'm not saying,
absolutely. For some people that suits them more. And actually there's something about, and we probably haven't got time to talk about this now, is if people can get a mainstream job, or they can't hold down a mainstream job, either because they feel unsuited to it or because they just don't get on with either the job and the role or the people around them. There is something there again about how we prepare ourselves for mainstream life, and we don't take, you know, we're not like fringe members of society, so we just take ourselves off to a side just because it got a little bit tough. But like I said, I don't think we've got time to do that. But that's interesting. Not the CV route. That's an interesting, interesting way.
The reason being is like there's a few routes, and one of the things that we do need is, like, you know, when you become a volunteer, it's, you know, a lot of our organisations they do have a lot of volunteers, but are we developing our volunteers? Are we giving them skills? Are they learning, or are they just coming in for that one day and doing a job? Right? We save a bit of money, so everyone's happy. But it's about and then you lose that person, because if they get treated badly, say they go to volunteer a masjid or something, and they get treated badly, they're not going to come back, right? And they'll probably go and volunteer somewhere else where they are treated right. And it's about building on the resources that we do have. And yes, I understand that, you know, not everybody can pay because of financial restrictions, but we can still build people up. And generally we tend to knock their confidence instead. So we need to really start looking at, you know, what are we doing? And
well, there's lots of good guidance out there, isn't it, around volunteer management, around support for volunteers. You know, it's things like giving them proper supervision, giving them, you know, reimbursing expenses, and the National Council for Voluntary Organisations has got a lot of advice, and the National Volunteer Units have got a lot of advice. So you don't have to start again. It's all out there already, actually.
But are we accessing that?
Well,
we as Muslims need to access that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. There is a lot of help out there. And I used to run a women's centre many moons ago, and we had, you know, alhamdulillah, we had a really advanced, really detailed volunteer, young and older. But one thing we had our eye on all the time was how we take people on a journey. So they might start out just helping set up the mother and toddler group, but then actually how do we keep upskilling them so that they could go and be on the committee and they could help run the organisation. And then how do we get them to use those skills that they've learned in doing that to think about going into paid work, and even within that, if they still want our support at this point, which some did, then how do we get them moving through and develop it, going from a job but then developing that into a career if they want. So we had some people who did a little bit of, you know, crash work and then actually became fully qualified nursery nurses, you know. So it's plotting that journey. I think that's important, because otherwise you can have, you know, you'll get this really helpful volunteer and absolutely, you know, take everything she has to offer. But then at the end of it, I'll go, okay, I just gave over, you know, many hours of my little bits of spare time, which I don't have a lot of, and now what? So I think there is something about respect, you know, the time that they're giving them. Because we think it's free, because it isn't. It costs someone something somewhere, doesn't it?
Of course it doesn't. So inshallah, it's really good to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots. Unfortunately, our time is nearly over. But I was just going to suggest something. I don't know if you're aware, Bradford actually has a peace museum. So I can just see, you know, I was just planning your exhibitions ahead for you, you know, that I can just see a connection. All the help,
absolutely.
No, but a really good connection there, because they also did a project last year about the contribution of Muslims and Muslim soldiers and, you know, people from the South Asian subcontinent in World War I. So, you know, they've got a lot of artifacts and exhibitions already, you know, amassed. So it might be worthwhile exploring a bit of a connection.
And, you know, one of the reasons I'm here is to make that link between Bradford and Manchester, because both places have sizable Muslim communities of all different origins. So it'd be good to link up, inshallah.
And then the other thing I was going to say, a few years ago I went to Istanbul in Turkey, and I always say it wrong, Topkapi Palace.
Topkapi Palace, yes.
Right, you know, as well as the National Archives. I had the privilege of going to see some of, you know, the oldest things. And it'd be amazing over time if, you know, you could curate that properly. So what I'm saying is, when you aim high, you know, because to be able to, you know, in the same way like the Natural History Museum, you know, borrows artifacts from Egypt and sends it back and things like this. That
we're on the same page
huge.
There, because that's really good. Inshallah.
When it was funny, because when we were looking around Topkapi Palace, and then when we were in the National Archives, and it was a privileged tour that we had. First, I remember when I started, I was thinking it's Turkish history. But then I realised actually it's my history, because it's Islamic history, and I think that's really powerful, and it was just quite a moving moment. Anyway, good luck with everything there. Good luck with MacFest. I'm going to try and get to something, I hope, inshallah. You can look at the websites for more information. So, I mean, we've just got literally a minute left. Is there anything you'd like to say to the people of Manchester, Bradford, and much further afield?
Come to MacFest. Come to MacFest. It's on the 17th of November at the British Muslim Heritage Centre. Book your tickets on Eventbrite. We've got a Launch Good page, so you just type in MacFest, and inshallah just support us and come down. Super.
And for further information, you can go to www.bmhc.org.uk. So thank you so much for your time. It's been a joy having you here, and you know, more strength to the organisation and yourself and all your endeavours, inshallah. And viewers, thank you very much for giving us your time as well. And